It's the morning show with Kathryn Thomas on Dublin's Q102. Over 25 million books sold across 50 countries in 30 languages. And she has just released her 21st book. It is called Paper Heart, and she is the one and only Cecelia Ahern. It is so lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, we were just saying during the song there that I read this on a plane coming back from Finland last weekend, and honestly it was like the perfect place to read it, because am I right in saying, did you finish this on a flight coming home from South Africa? Was that
This one? Actually, that's a good... Yes, I think it might have been this one.
I thought I read that somewhere, but I finished this on an airplane, and honestly it kind of really fed into the themes of escapism and I suppose feeling trapped, and then kind of wanting to live your biggest, fullest life. And at the same time then I thought, God, if I was reading it at home in my bedroom, if I did feel that I wanted to break out and I wasn't living that life, it probably would have had an even greater impape as well.
That's great.
It's such a
a
good read.
Yeah, it is about a character who is really small. She has been made feel really small.
Yeah.
And she's feeling really small. She's living in the smallest room of the house. She's folding herself away, her dreams, her hopes, her ambitions. And it is about this slow opening.
Yeah.
And how she starts to flourish. So it is a little harsh of a read sometimes, but it's generally very positive and uplifting.
Well, you go from kind of like huge emotions, you go from sort of laughing to crying and really feeling for her, and you actually just really encapsulated that feeling of being trapped so well. Like you just brought it to life. Where did that inspiration, where were you able to kind of draw
the
from?
inspiration for this was a bit nuts, but I'll explain.
Do.
So I was watching Great British Menu, the cooking show.
What?
And yes, the final banquet was in the Jodrell Bank Observatory in the UK, and Andy Oliver was talking to a scientist about a radio telescope that is tasked with finding a signal from a distant star. And that one phrase to me just sparked so much.
Way.
It was so evocative to me. I wrote it down immediately, and then I went down the wormhole of discovering about these radio telescopes. So there's an astronomy aspect in this.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about how so many of us are looking for signals. We're searching for signs, and we're waiting for things to happen. But we don't often make things happen. It's like we're waiting. Is it right? Will I? Should I? Instead of just doing it. So that's where my character came from, Pip. She doesn't make things happen. She's very much a passenger in her own life.
Yeah.
And but things are bubbling away. She's starting to unfold, and so that's where it came from, and that's where obviously then when I discovered there was a radio telescope in Birr in County Offaly, I thought this is perfect.
Well, my husband is an Offaly man, and you really encapsulate as well the small town Offaly. Can I say so? This is book number 21,
yes,
like we said, and that was the same age when you got your first book deal with P.S. I Love You.
Yeah.
I mean, that is phenomenal. Is that lost on you? How, like, when you think back to 21-year-old Cecelia, I know your daughter is here with us in studio today. Like, when you think back to how far you've come and how established you've become, it's sort of mind-blowing.
It is occasionally mind-blowing. I think at the time when I was 21, I was so confused by why everyone kept pointing that out. And like, how could this 21-year-old have this insight? How could you write it at this age? How could you feel what you're feeling? And I used to always say, well, crime writers don't go out murdering people to experience what it's like to write a crime. I mean, you can use your imagination. So that was how I always explained it, as my imagination. It's my creativity, and I kind of have an old head on young shoulders. But now, as a 40-year-old, I do look at 21-year-olds now and think, God, I was that age when I wrote it. And it does seem young, even though they're adults. It does seem quite young. So it's pretty phenomenal what happened.
Yeah,
I was very, very lucky that my career began at that age.
And I loved the story that I read when you go into warehouses now, because over 25 million books sold, and the stacks of books got bigger and bigger, and the pallets of books got bigger and bigger in the warehouses. And you used to look at the forklifts, lifting them up. And now, did you get a license to drive a forklift?
I got a forklift
particularly
license.
just so you could go in and lift these books.
Well, I tell you what happened. I love going to the warehouses. I love that day because you get to see the pallets of books, like hundreds, thousands of your books, and I sign I sign the stock, and then it goes out to the shops.
Yeah.
And I am a bit of a child, and I see these vehicles around, and I want to play with them. But health and safety won't let me. So I remember one warehouse said to me, if you come back with your license, we'll let you drive it. And they were being sarcastic. I don't think they have any intention of letting me drive it. But I did. I went and I got my forklift license.
And how long did that take?
Well,
how do you get a forklift license?
I went to the Irish School of Motoring, and it was one day. I could have done 5 days to do very elaborate forklifts, but I did the one day. So I had to learn it to do the figure of 8 forwards, reverse. Then,
right.
And then I watched a lot of footage of things going wrong in warehouses. Then I had to do a written test, and then I got my license.
Oh my God, brilliant!
Yeah. So
absolutely,
so just
brilliant.
2 weeks ago, I went back, and they let me.
And
do
they
it.
let
They
you
let
do
me.
it. Oh my God, that is brilliant.
Thank you.
Well, and speaking of odd hobbies, because in this book, Pip, who's the main character, she has the hobby. She takes up origami and she writes beautiful poetry and then makes them into lovely shapes. Is poetry something that you do in your spare time? Because it's so beautifully written.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm not a poet.
Definitely, and not something that you want to get into.
Well, I love reading it, but
Okay.
I've never written it myself. And I was just driving my car one day and this origami girl poem popped into my head. And I was kind of searching for the voice of my character. And I pulled the car over, typed it up into my notes. And after that, it just started flooding through me. And I think it was the character saying, hi, I'm here. This is what I sound like and I'm ready to be written, because I just couldn't get them out of my head, and I'm not a poet.
And did you know anything about origami at that point? Or?
No, I mean, I'd done it with the kids,
Yeah.
but not myself as a craft. I've absolutely no idea. I think I liked the idea of her being able to express herself in this way, and then folding it away as if she was hiding it, and tucking it away as she'd been doing with everything in her life, And it tied into the theme of it, but also she was trying to shape her life as she's doing it. Every time she makes a different shape, she's trying to shape the path that she's on.
And this is her way to kind of breathe, it felt to me, because she's very suppressed by her family. She's very trapped by the people who should love her the most. And this is the way that she can kind of breathe and escape. And I'll just read a little bit of it because it is really beautiful. Origami girl has an origami baby. Birthing her, rips her delicate paper. She folds her baby once, then twice, and tucks her inside a fold of her own so no one can take her away. It's just so beautiful.
I don't know where that came from. I feel like Pip wrote it. I didn't. I was writing it from her perspective, and she has a very controlling, narcissistic mother. And I was really intrigued by this idea of infantilization. As a 32-year-old being treated like a teenager still. So this grown woman needs to find her voice and find her own freedom. It was a different story for me to write, but I think it's ultimately uplifting.
Yeah, 100%. The dynamics between the mother, the daughter, and then Pip's daughter, Bella, is so fascinating as the book goes on. So Bella is the 16-year-old daughter, is Pip's daughter, and she is a very typical 16-year-old, we'd say.
Yes.
What age is your daughter?
Nearly 16.
Nearly 16. Okay, so you had lots of inspiration to draw on.
I would say she's not this 16-year-old because Bella what I wanted to make Bella was very different to Pip's experience. When she was 16, she was pregnant, but the shame and the guilt with that and the embarrassment of her family, she was wearing baggy clothes, she had to hide her body. She was certainly not looking up. Bella is, we've described her as the chin is up, there's a sway in her hips, she strides across the road knowing everyone's looking at her and loves it. She's such a confident young woman, and Pip is really looking at her and learning. I never had that at that age, and she starts to see all the things she could have done. So Pip is actually an inspiration, Bella's an inspiration to Pip.
Like as a mother of 2 girls now, and you're trying to mother them in the best way and create the relationships that, and for me and maybe a lot of my friends that we talk to now, have different relationships than we had with our own parents. I love my mother to bits, but I would like to evolve my own relationship with my girls in a slightly different way. And I loved that in the book, that there's, I think a lot of Irish women are going to be able to relate to that kind of changing relationship between daughter, mother and grandmother.
I think so, and I think for Pip, she wants to not have this sister relationship that she has with her daughter. She'd like to be able to inspire her and grab small moments, small pockets of time in their day to be able to say something that will have an impact, because Bella doesn't have a great amount of respect for her as a mother. It's the grandmother that really makes those decisions, though Bella's well able to play her. But yeah, it is an interesting dynamic. They all have something different going on with each other, and all trying to get their voice out there.
Yeah. With the success of your career, Cecelia, and also, your family being in the limelight for a long time since you were a child, now that you are a 40-something-year-old woman like myself and a mom with a massively successful career, have you learned to give less of a shit about what people think? Or do you still have to fight the kind of the imposter syndrome or the negative person on your shoulder when it comes to critics and all of that?
I'm very confident with who I am and what I do. I always have, for someone who's never written poetry, suddenly it came out. So I kind of trust in myself in that way. But I do think, I do think that what spurs me on is this trying to prove something to, I don't know who the imaginary person is, but I do have I do believe in myself. So which is great when I'm writing. But I don't know what that is. It's like, I'm trying to compete against myself, I think, a lot of the time, and do better than the last book all the time, and prove myself that I can do better.
Yeah.
So that might be it, more than caring what other people think. It might be more just about myself.
I know. Well, and I mean, when you have such a back catalogue of success behind you, it's like, what is the next going to be? And I suppose that comes with its own pressure. And we know that there's been so many TV and film adaptations, and you've got a collection of short stories, Roar, adapted for Apple TV, and Nicole Kidman is involved in that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so her production company, Blossom Films, produced it along with Made Up Stories. And she's starring in one episode. She's the woman who ate photographs. That's her episode. But there's also Cynthia Erivo and
who I love. Oh my God.
Mira Sayal, Betty Gilpin. I shouldn't even start it now because I'll Merritt Weaver. There's 8 episodes, and 6 are based on my book, and there's 2 original. So they're on Apple now, and I was executive producer, and it was an absolute dream come true.
And when those phone calls happen and it all starts and contracts are signed, like walking in, do you meet Nicole Kidman? Do you meet all the gang?
Well, if it wasn't COVID, I would have been over there on set, but it was during COVID and I couldn't get out of the country.
Okay.
So it was a lot of conference calls, phone calls, Zooms, and it was very interesting actually, just being a part of all the conversations that I wouldn't have been, from the set designer, everything, every single thing, costumes, wardrobe, everything was such an education to me, because I loved that world. So I do want to be part of it.
Part of it a bit more.
A bit more, thank you.
Well, listen, this has film all over it in my book, I've got to say. I absolutely loved it. Can't let you go without talking about your dad, because we are knee deep in presidential election. Are you over talking about it at this point?
Over it. Yeah, that's right. That's a good way to put it. No, obviously very supportive of him and whatever he wants to do. We're all behind him.
You reckon he would have made a good president?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I do. I know his traits. I think he would have been brilliant. And but look, it's not to be. That's the way it goes.
Would you ever think of running for the Oris yourself?
No.
Stick with doing what you do best, is what they say. The book is called Paper Heart. It is absolutely brilliant. It is a must read. Cecelia Ahern, always a pleasure. Lovely to catch up with you today.
Thank you so much.